And why didn't anybody teach us that we need to be selling ourselves? And how? Like, I don't know. It just feels weird. It feels awkward. Trust me, those are all the thoughts I've had about selling myself, because who wants to do that? Like, that just sounds very awkward. But you do need to know how to talk about yourself. And there is an art to talking about yourself the right way that gets you interviews and that gets you hired for roles that you actually want. And in today's video, I'm gonna give you some tricks, some hacks, some things to think about when it comes to talking about yourself, so that it doesn't feel like you have to sell yourself out on the street, but you're really just having a great conversation that ultimately gets you hired. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Adunola Adeshola, and if you are new around here, I am a career strategist and I teach high achievers how to land new jobs they love at companies they love. So let's get into what you should do. Number one, you want to change your perspective. Instead of worrying about being arrogant, worrying about sounding like you're bragging about yourself, focus on being helpful. Because the truth is, the hiring process is all about building trust. They have interviews, they ask for resumes, they do the whole shebang because they want to find people who they can trust to do the job. And a lot of great companies want to make sure that they're hiring the best people the first time the job opening is available. And so what you want to think about when it comes to talking about yourself is, how can I make sure that I'm communicating to them that they can trust me to successfully do the job? Recognize that talking about yourself and sharing all the amazing things you've done is not arrogant, it's kind. It gives them the information that they need to make an informed decision about if you are the best fit for the role. If you think about it, if you're not sharing the information that they need to know to help them determine if you're the best fit for the role, then they're essentially not making the best informed decision about whether or not you should be hired for the job. Too many interviewers leave interviews with well-qualified candidates still guessing about if they can do the job, if they're going to be the best person that they should recommend to do the job. And if they have to guess about you, then they're likely not going to pick you. And so you don't want to be in that category where they kind of think you would be a great fit, but they're not really sure. Because the candidate who shows them that they can trust them to do the job, who communicates that confidence because they are comfortable talking about themselves, they are the ones that are likely going to get hired because they didn't leave any guessing when it came to their conversations. As Brene Brown says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. So if you want to be kind to your interviewers, get comfortable with talking about the amazing things that you've done. Next, now that you have that new perspective, you want to understand the role and how you can help. So again, when it comes to selling yourself, you don't want to think about selling yourself like a car salesman, because you are not a car salesman, right? But you want to think about, how can I be helpful? Because ultimately you're probably the type of person who wants to be helpful anyway. And so the best way to be helpful is to understand the role. Not all roles are created equal. So even if you've seen 100 marketing specialist roles, don't assume that because you've applied to all of them that they're all the same type of jobs. Because the truth is that each company has a specific reason for why they decided to open that job. And so your job is to really dive into the job description and get clear on what are they asking for, what are the needs of the job, what are the challenges that they want you to solve, so that you can really begin to identify what they need from you to be able to thrive in the position. Then once you know their top 3 needs, then you can say, what examples, accomplishments, and results can I communicate in my interview that will help them to understand that I can do the job? Because you want to communicate that trust. And when you understand the job and when you understand why you can help, then you're more likely to communicate to them that they can trust you to do the job. So ask yourself, what are the top 3 things that they're looking for in this position? And then what are the top 3 to 5 examples that you can use in your interviews to show them that you meet those things that they need you to do in that role? The other thing you want to do is don't assume. So when it comes to selling yourself, you can feel like you have to just talk about everything. Or if you are afraid of selling yourself, you may feel like, well, I don't want to say too much because maybe they already know that, or maybe it's pretty obvious. But you don't want to assume. Like, don't assume that you have to talk their ear off, and don't assume that they already know. Find the middle ground. But the biggest thing is that you don't want to assume that because you got an interview and because the interviewer probably read your resume, that you don't have to talk about yourself or repeat the things that they have already seen on your resume. Because they probably don't even remember what's on your resume. They probably don't even know. They probably don't even know. Think about it. They have so many other things going on. Maybe they're interviewing other candidates. Maybe they have other personal things going on. Maybe they have other work responsibilities going on. And so you don't want to assume that the biggest thing on their mind is what's on your resume. And so because of that, you want to be continuously reiterating what you can do. No matter how many interviews you have, no matter how many people you talk to, I recommend thinking about every conversation like it's going to be your first and your last. Because when you know this is your first conversation with someone, you're gonna be clear about what it is that you do, who you are, what you wanna be able to do. And when you know it's your last, you're gonna make sure that you give them the most important information that they need to know so that they remember you. When it comes to talking about yourself, you wanna give them what they need to know so that they don't leave the conversation guessing. Don't assume, and be okay with repeating yourself, even if you said it in the last 2 interviews. The other thing you want to do is be proactive. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard from high achievers who say that they prepared for their interviews maybe over days, and then they get into the interview and they have the stories and examples they want to share, but they don't get asked any of the questions that they prepared the examples for, and they leave the interview not sharing those stories and those examples. Then, no surprise, they end up not getting the job, and they're wondering, why didn't they get it? Why weren't they hired? And it's because they made the mistake of not being proactive. They were reactive, reacting to every question instead of being proactive. And so if you want to master talking about yourself the right way, in a graceful and confident way, then be proactive. Don't wait for a specific question to come before you share examples and accomplishments about what you can do. Because at the end of the day, what's on the recruiter's mind, regardless of what question that they're asking you, is why should we hire you? When they ask you what's your greatest weakness, when they ask you to tell me about yourself, when they ask you why do you think you're going to be a great fit, when they ask you why you're leaving the job that you're in now, their main question is why should we hire you? So regardless of what question they ask or don't ask, you need to give them the information about your examples, about your accomplishments, about your background that would answer the question, why should we hire you? Selling yourself is such a weird concept, and so I just like to think about it as talking about yourself in a graceful and authentic and confident way that builds trust in the hiring process. It's not as quick to just say that, but that really is what it should be when it comes to talking about yourself. And when you approach talking about yourself in interviews from this perspective and follow the tips I've shared with you today, then you're gonna be so much better prepared than so many other candidates that you will be interviewing with that don't know how to master these things. And if you wanna dive deeper, then grab my free guide on how to go from 0 interviews to dream job offers. It's 15 pages packed with specific things that you can do right now to help you navigate your job search and help you confidently go after the roles that you want. And if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Go ahead and like and subscribe and tap the bell so that you don't miss out on any of the other videos, any of the other advice that I'm going to be sharing on how to stand out and get hired. And in the meantime, have a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, and if you are still here, let me know what your biggest takeaway was from today's video. Drop it in the comments. I would love to hear from you.